so I'm Suyog Deshpande. I am Senior Technical Product Manager at AWS Educate. So today I'm here to talk about a little bit more about what we do and how we partner with Vocadium on a couple of things that we do for our students, and go a little bit more into AWS Educate classrooms. I'm primarily responsible for our Vocadium relationship, the AWS Educate classrooms feature, and I also look after like the educator as well as the student side of our experiences. So what's our agenda for today? We'll talk a little bit about what AWS Educate is and how we work. What are some of the options for K-12 educators and students, and then how we partner with Vocadium. We'll go a little bit into classrooms and then how you can get involved. I'm hoping that I'll take around 20 minutes for this presentation, and then we'll be able to do a little bit of demo and then go into the actual classroom itself just to show you what we have. All right, so what is AWS Educate? AWS Educate is Amazon's global initiative to accelerate cloud learning and to prepare students for the cloud-enabled jobs of tomorrow. So we launched in 2015, and it was based on the need for both private and public sector requiring cloud curriculum and upskilling students for the jobs of tomorrow. So at a high level, AWS Educate is a portal. It's a website. Anyone who is an educator or a student can create an account on AWS Educate, and then they can take advantage of our no-cost offering. The AWS Educate website has customized experience for educators, post-secondary students, as well as K-12 students. And then, AWS Educate also provides these students and educators with access to AWS console at no cost. And we do that with the help of Vocadium, as we'll talk about later. What are some of the things that educators or students receive on AWS Educate? And you will notice that we also have veterans here, and that's a special kind of students that we do actually address only in the United States. But on a general basis, for educators, AWS Educate is a tool that you can use to teach cloud concepts to your students, taking our curriculum and guidance and sort of build a plug and play model for your students. For students and US veterans, we provide a no cost curriculum and access to training pathways, AWS services, as well as a job board for students to apply. And for employers, we make it easy for them to find talent and hire them, and this is all global. Currently, AWS Educate supports hundreds of thousands of students. We have over 10,000 educators active on our platform, and we have more than 2,500 or 400 institutions who are members of AWS Educate. We are a global program. We are available in pretty much every country that we are allowed to be available at this point. So how do we work? How does AWS Educate work? The framework of our entire initiative is really the cloud competency framework. It's a unique thing that AWS Educate has developed. It's a global standard that we use to assess, create, and measure AWS Educate's cloud programs and content. The cloud competency framework classifies and organizes the Educate content in a very ordered system. It makes relationships between the content that you're learning towards the jobs that are available in the market. The way we developed this cloud competency framework was to assess the workforce requirements, talking to employers, looking at the skill sets that are required for these jobs in today's market, and developing a content framework around that. We looked at the entire job market, and we sort of came up with around 11 cloud computing job families based on all the tech discussions we've had with the overall workforce. So when you look at that, the way what happens is, what we want is basically students to be upskilled in the technologies and in the skills that help them get jobs. And the way we do that is through our cloud career programs. And we have for K-12, cloud career pathways, or even cloud degrees program that we don't really have too much time to get into. But the way we go into this is either we go through like, badges or pathways that the students can enroll themselves into, and then, gain competencies for jobs of tomorrow. So let's go a little bit more detail into like, for K-12 students, what do we do for K-12 students? So in the K-12 space, and we define a K-12 learner as someone who is above 13 years old. So anybody who is over 13 years old can apply for an AWS Educate account. And the cloud competency framework comes together in these three badges that you see here. It's a Cloud Explorer badge, a Cloud Inventor, or a Cloud Builder. Students discover how to use cloud to bring ideas to life. They can complete interactive challenges and hands-on activities, and they can even get like almost $75 or up to $75 in promotional credits in an AWS Educate Starter account that we'll talk about later. The Educate Starter account is basically access to the AWS console for these K-12 learners to get real-world experience on how to build on the cloud. On the educator side, the K-12 educator also has access to all the facilitator guides and all the help guides that they can use to bring cloud concepts to their students in the classroom. Classrooms is another way that our educators bring cloud concepts to students in the classroom. So basically, educators set up cloud assignments in a classroom, and then the K-12 learners can go into the console or into a Cloud9 desktop and do their homework or do their work. The other thing that also AWS Educate offers, even at like from a K-12 perspective or from an educator perspective, is the ability to integrate with learning management systems. So many of our K-12 learners actually come from LMS integrations with school systems or partners. So again, like we support that, and we allow like students to come in via those methods. AWS Educate provides them with no cost access to all this learning content, and it is, as I said, it is available for anybody who is 14 years or 13 years or older. What about our post-secondary students who are in college? These are over 18 or crowd who are in the college and who are like learning for the jobs of tomorrow. We have a separate portal and a separate experience for these students inside AWS Educate. These students, like, the first thing that they can do is explore these cloud career pathways. And we divide them up in three different ways, like entry level, intermediate level, and advanced level. And these pathways are basically like content that they can learn on their own. These are like 25 hours plus content. So it's like a fully fledged pathway that students can get experience on, and then take that knowledge to apply for the jobs. These content was very selectively curated so that we could align ourselves to that cloud competency framework that we talked about and how it can connect them to the jobs of tomorrow. Again, like students learn these cloud skills and for careers in cloud computing at no cost. Each pathway is aligned to like a job role, like, so for example, like a machine learning scientist or application developer. And it is a fully fledged pathway that students can enroll themselves into. We also do have a concept called as badges. Now, these are basically fun little things, or like, very specific, very targeted technology trends that students would like to learn about. So these are like 10 to 15 hours worth of content, but they're very specific towards a very specific service area within AWS. These are wildly popular within students because you get to learn a lot of things within a short amount of time, and they're very focused towards very particular areas. So currently we have badges on like Sumerian, Deep Racer, RoboMaker, which is one of our most popular ones, DeepLens, or even like AWS startups. And this is a good way for students to, again, sort of get like a good hands-on experience on a specific skill set, a specific area to enhance their learning. For the over 18 crowd, we also have a job board. As we were talking about how it all ties from content to jobs, the job board is there for students to apply, to find and apply jobs. We have like thousands of jobs and internships available for students to apply to. They can also sort it out by like learning pathways and all of that. One of the cool things about this is it also allows employers to look for students who have completed a certain amount of pathway, and they can ensure that they know a few things before they can contact them. So it works both ways. It allows the students to apply for jobs, but also employers to find talent on our platform. Please keep asking in the chat window. I'm sorry, I'm presenting right now, so I wanted to say this at first. So if I will get to your questions after I stop sharing the screen. So if you have questions, please put them in the chat window and I'll get to it once we are done. All right, how about educators? Educators are actually one of the most important people or most important persona that we target with AWS Educate. We believe that educators are force multipliers, and we really want our educators also to be enabled and bring cloud computing to their students. So we really value our educators a whole lot, and we put a lot of emphasis on features and benefits that we give to educators. So what are some of the educate benefits that the educators get? They get access to the same curated content. They get access to AWS Educate classrooms. They get ability to request credits if they want. They also have the opportunity to become like an AWS Educate Cloud ambassador and collaborate with other educators and evangelize cloud within the community. You also get discounts for training and 50% discount even on certification exams, so that educators can enable themselves in the cloud. A lot of educators have actually told us that they would love to learn cloud themselves before they take it to the students. So we want to make it easier even for our educators to learn cloud concepts and get all of that knowledge before they take it to their students. What are some of the educator features that we have? As we talked about, we'll go into classrooms a little bit more in detail in around 5 minutes. But the other things that we also have are the ability to integrate with LMS. Many educators actually use a course, whether it's in Canvas or Blackboard or what have you, and they often would like to integrate AWS Educate directly inside of their LMS and content, so that once the student goes through their educator-driven content, the students can jump into AWS Educate and then do hands-on activity, right? So the educators can request for LTI integration with their own LMS systems. It's a very popular way for educators to integrate content. They can also request a registration link, which is primarily driven by our K-12 educators. So it makes it easier for students to join AWS Educate. The third option also being educators can request credits for the class. Now, this is a unique thing that is different from an AWS Educate classroom. This option or this feature is really for educators who are very well versed with AWS. We do have educators who are extremely comfortable with AWS and they know their way around, etc. So in this option, basically what the educators do is they request credits or AWS promotional credits for their own account, and they apply it to their own account, and the students then use the educator AWS account to do their projects. Obviously, because this is really meant for advanced educators sort of thing, we assume that the educator is aware of all the billing and the management and budgeting and the complexities of IAM roles, etc. that come with it. More than 80% of our educators, however, don't want that. They want a simplified experience where they would love for all of this billing and management and the complexity of handling all of those IAM relationships and users and offload it out to us. And that's where AWS Educate Classrooms comes into picture. So this is a way for us to enable educators to collaborate with the students without actually worrying about all the billing and management headache that comes with it. So, and we'll go into a little bit more demo as we go along the slides. How does this work? Just wanted to talk about a little bit about how do we make all of this happen, whether it's classrooms or starter accounts, and how our relationship with Vocarium comes across here. Vocarium has been an AWS Educate partner since 2018. They are our main providers for the starter accounts, and they also power our AWS Educate classrooms. They are a very highly available and they have a very highly scalable architecture that provides our hands-on AWS console experience. We have tens of thousands of students who are, active daily on the platform, and they all jump into, Vocarium to access their starter accounts or get into classrooms to do their activities. So what are these starter accounts that we are talking about, right? So starter accounts are nothing but an AWS console or access to an AWS account without the need of opening an AWS account. So for example, what I mean is like, when students come in, whether it's global or local to the United States, they want hands-on experience on the AWS console to be able to do a lot more. And this is unlike a lot of other lab providers where like, they're very targeted towards a specific activity. This is a full-fledged AWS account with some restrictions, of course, with some restrictions around like policies and some restrictions around services, but it's pretty much like a full service AWS account with more than 70 services included that the students can use and build projects on. So they can use it for their own learning and do what they want to do. This is offered at no cost, and this is provided by Vocarium to all of our students. So the billing and the account management is all handled by Vocarium in AWS Educate, and students get a pre-funded AWS account for their own personal learning. What about AWS Educate Classrooms, and how is this different? So our AWS Educate Classrooms is driven completely by educators. Over the years, what we heard from educators was they wanted the ability to create the sandbox sort of environment to collaborate with their students. And more importantly, the educators wanted to have visibility into what the students were doing inside of those accounts. So we came up with AWS Educate Classrooms along with Vocarium. The whole idea being that the educator creates a sandbox where students and educators come together inside a common sandbox environment. And all students get their individual AWS accounts meant for the classroom in that sandbox. The students can then go ahead and do all the projects that they want in their individual classroom AWS accounts. And the educator has the ability to change the role of the educator and make himself a student and then go into a student account and see what the student is doing. So for example, if a student is stuck on like a programming assignment, the educator can change roles into a student and then go into the student AWS account and help the student out and say, these are the things that you need to fix. So it's a very highly successful model of a student educator to student engagement model that we've seen. The most common ways that people have used this model is in K-12 space. All the students inside of a classroom, they all open their own individual Cloud9 desktops. And then as they do their programming assignments, the educator jumps into each of the students' AWS accounts and sees whether they've done the right thing. For more advanced users, we've also had like people doing big data projects, even machine learning projects, ability to use SageMaker and do like notebooks and Jupyter notebooks, all of that stuff too. So educators use them in a variety of ways, and as I said, it's primarily driven by educators. So we expect the educators to bring their own assignments and content inside of this classroom. We currently have thousands of classrooms provisioned and managed and operated by Vocarium, and we have tens of thousands of active students who are currently active in these classrooms. So how does an educator actually go about, requesting a classroom, right? And we will go through it in the demo too. So I'm going to skip over a little bit faster on this end. The first thing that the educator does is log into the platform and click on the classroom and credits option to bring up the screen to request a classroom. One of the key concepts with classrooms is the ability to control resources with the help of templates. What our educators told us was, they would like to also control what the students are accessing within an AWS environment so that they can be ensured that their budget is being well spent. So for example, the educator said, if I request $50 in a classroom per student, I would like to ensure that those $50 are only being spent on services related to cloud basics or big data, but not on machine learning. So the templates allow you to sort of build a classroom in such a way that you give the educators gives access to only specific services. We also do have a template that allows educators to just select all services, all allowed services in our platform to the students. So we give like flexibility to the educator to set up the classroom their way. We expect the educators to simply upload a list of student emails, and then we take care of inviting and making them we take care of inviting those students to join AWS Educate, and then the Educate student has the option of accepting the invite to join the classroom or not. Once they do accept the invitation and they have joined the classroom, as I was saying, one of the biggest advantage or biggest advantages of classrooms is the billing and management, and the technical aspects of it is completely handled by Vocarium and AWS Educate. So once they are in a classroom, all students get their own AWS account meant specifically for that classroom for that duration. And then the educator has full visibility into how much they're spending, what they're spending on, and then have the ability to also change their role into a student and access the student role, so that they can make out what's going on in what a student actually doing inside of their classroom AWS account, and what they can and where they need help. So what are some of the projects that educators are driving? And these are all public projects actually. So these are not specific to classrooms. These are public projects hosted on AWS. So these are the kind of projects that educators are actually running within their classrooms and asking their students to do. For example, analyzing big data with Hadoop, or a serverless application, building a serverless application, or even, as I said, RoboMaker, where students actually go through the badge and then the educator asks them to use the RoboMaker service inside of the classroom and build a complete RoboMaker gazebo model that they can do. So that's around about the slides I had. And I am going to switch over to a demo. But before that, I'm just going to end with this saying, if you want to register yourself to AWS Educate to get all of these benefits, just go to awseducate.com, and then from there you can go ahead and get access to all of these. All right, I'm going to end here and switch quickly to the screen. I'm assuming that you're still seeing the screen. So when you go to awseducate.com, this is where you land up. As an educator or students, there is a lot of information on our landing page or the marketing page, and I highly recommend that you go through all of this if you'd like to see the benefits and what we offer to all of this. And I won't go in through all the process that we have here. It could take a lot of time. So if you click on AWS Educate, then you can select a role that you want to join and then go through the process. What I'm going to do is actually log in as an educator that I already have. So I'm going to log in as an educator on the platform. And this is my landing page when I come into it. And we can go into a lot of details about how to, what are all the different options. But some of the things that we can look into is content tab here. Basically, this is all the content that is available for educators to download or use them in their own classrooms. We have PDFs, PowerPoint presentations, even common cartridge format, so they can integrate that directly inside of their LMS. Again, these are all aligned to our cloud competency framework. Highly recommend that you look into it. The next tab is obviously the classrooms and credits that we will be spending a little bit more time on. And then professional resources is where you can find, resources on how to use Educate, the classrooms guide, activities within the content repository, and then requesting 50% account. One of the things that educators also get is the ability to have starter account that we talked about with some pre-funded amount. So this is my test account, so it has a little bit different numbers here. So going back to classrooms, the way you want to request a classroom here is you click on request or go to an AWS Educate Classrooms. And there are just 3 steps that we need to do. So as I said, there are 7 templates that you can choose from. And for this particular demo, I'm going to just choose 3 of them. And at best, you can select only 3 templates. So make a selection. and you put in your course name, course number, details, and I'm just putting in things here. What is very important for us is like the course start date and then the course end date that we want to put. So classrooms is not meant for like a year-long project or something like that. We are looking for like, the classrooms are really meant for more like a semester-long project or like in a shorter duration projects or shorter duration courses. So, and most of our educators use up to 6 months in the duration. The credit requested is kind of important. So it's basically what we are saying is like, try to make an estimate of how many credits per student that you need inside of the account. And every student who joins the classroom will get that many dollars or that many credits inside of a pre-funded AWS account for the classroom. So I'm going to just say 50. If you need more, it's totally fine, but we will ask for a justification. And based on the response here, we will decide whether to approve that request or not. How many credits to request is actually a very common question. And our general recommendation is anything to do with big data or machine learning generally requires around about $75 to $100 per student, but anything else you're fine with $50 or less. But based on the projects that you're going to do, usually we will just let you make the best choice. Once you do that, download the email address template, and all we expect in this template is the list of students that are going to be inside of the classroom. So for example, I'm just gonna select this and then click on submit. Once you click on submit, it goes into an under review stage, just like you see here. All classrooms are approved within 2 to 4 business days. And we look at all of the details that the educators have provided and then approve these classrooms. So ignore my stuff here. There's a lot of classrooms that I've been doing demos for. So, generally so that's another thing. We don't restrict our educators from certain number of classrooms. Many of our educators actually do have multiple classrooms at the same time. The other thing that I'd like to point out here is educators themselves can be a student in some other educator's classroom, which is pretty cool because then we usually have central administrators or IT administrators who want to be a part of, who want to first learn themselves before they take cloud computing to others. So once you click on a classroom here, you can see all the other details of the classrooms and then who are all the students inside of this classrooms. You can invite more students and you can actually have them do other stuff as well. So what happens when you click on go to classrooms? And when we click on go to classrooms, we immediately land into Vocarium's interface for classrooms. And I, as an educator, have the ability now to look into all the things that are going on. So I have these students out here. I can pick a student and then I can say, click on the work area and change role as a student and go into the student account. So this allows me the ability to say, okay, what is the student doing and how we get in and what are some of the things that the student is up to. In this case, if you see here, this particular student has already exceeded all the credits in that account, so he's not able to go through, but I can find another one where it is actually possible to go through. And we have so many of them, so I apologize if there is not one that actually goes through. So let's go through here. And again, as I said, you can choose as many as you want. So I'm going to try to do this again. I'm going to say work project. I'm going to change role. And then once I change role, I'll be able to see how many dollars. In this case, this student has pretty much run out of his credits, but I can still access the AWS console to kind of see just before it's actually deactivated, what happens, kind of see what's going on. The other thing that the educators can also do is click on the analytics tab and see what kind of spend there is inside of the classroom and how much they've spent in each month. But from an overall process perspective, right? Extremely easy to set this up. And then as I said, extremely we see a lot of educator to student engagement model through this mechanism. When a student logs into their account, they see a different interface because they come in through a different way. So I can potentially see if we have like a student account that I can show you and see how the experience looks from a student perspective. From a student perspective, they see this tab and they see all the list of students or all the classrooms that they are a part of them. So they have the option of accepting a classroom, declining, or if they're accepted, they have the ability to just go inside of the classroom. So when they click on their end to go into a classroom, they are just redirected directly into the Vocarium landing space. And then from there on, they can just jump into their classroom AWS account. So if I click on the AWS console here, this is actually the classroom AWS account that the educator provisioned for them. So now this educator or the student can go ahead and do whatever projects or whatever the assignments that the educator asked them to do.